Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This one's a little different in that we are covering a brand that I really have barely covered on this channel. That would be CCM, and the leg pads in question in this video are the CCM Eflex 7, CCM's newest pads. And just to kind of talk about why I picked these to try and why I haven't really covered much CCM on the channel. So the only CCM pad I've ever done was I did a review on the CCM Premier 1 pad. And I absolutely hated it. It's probably, off the top of my head, I want to say that's probably like the worst opinion I've had of any pad I've reviewed. Probably even any piece of equipment I've reviewed. I just thought it was a terrible pad. Like just even from the, not even just for me, but just design wise. And that's part of the reason that kind of put me off of CCM for a while. But also, you know, I go by what I hear. You know, I'm involved in a lot of goalie communities and stuff, and I listen to what people say, and there just hasn't been a lot of positive stuff I've heard of CCM over the years. So just all that considered, I just really haven't been too tempted to try CCM stuff. You know, I've mostly done like Vaughn, Bauer, Bryan's are probably the brands I have done the most reviews and whatever on. So I just figured it was time. You know, it's been long enough. I want to give CCM another chance, especially with the Eflex line is what they would say is geared towards me. I would argue that really nothing at this point stock is geared towards me. I really have to get custom. But, you know, this is their kind of more flexible, what some people might call a hybrid pad, whatever. So yeah, this is the CCM Eflex 7 pad. This is a stock pad. This is not custom. There's my dog you just saw laying down over here. I guess she wanted to make a little cameo. But anyway, yeah, so it's the stock pad. Like I said, I just wanted to try it. And then if you've seen my video I put out recently about my trip to Canada, that I went to a really nice hockey store. It's called Professional Skate in Calgary. There was a few things I saw in the store that, because of being in the store and being able to see it in person, made me want to try it and buy it. So a lot of the videos you'll see coming out now are going to be because of what I saw in the store. And this is one of them, the CCM pad. So, you know, aside from, like I said, that I just thought it was kind of time to give them a try. Like what I saw in the store, I liked enough to be like, all right, you know, this is interesting, I want to try it. Especially their sliding surface. So kind of like True also, CCM has been kind of maligned with their sliding surfaces, starting when they had the speed skin. A lot of people just said it wasn't very good. Trying to think, I don't think I ever used their speed skin. Well, yeah, because the Premier 1 pads didn't, I don't think it had, they didn't have a special sliding surface. So I actually never used the speed skin, but I've always heard like negative stuff about it. So this is an all new sliding surface they put on this pad, and while I obviously haven't used it yet, it just feels super smooth, and like you just think it would slide. Like just feeling it, you'd be like, oh yeah, this seems really smooth and like it's gonna slide. So I was really interested to give that a try. So to start off, going over the specs and how this is made and whatnot, I usually don't bring up the promotional jargon that the brands use, because a lot of times it doesn't mean a whole lot, and it's stuff that like we don't really know what the hell they're talking about. Like they just put names on things and it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, you're calling it that. But there is a few things I want to bring up talking about that's new with this. So they're calling it a Dualite core, they say it's built with the Dualite core, which is supposed to be lighter. And just feeling the pad, it feels fairly light. It's not like going to be in the running as the lightest pad on the market, but when you're looking at it compared to some of its competitors, the Vaughn Velocity, Bryan's, like it's definitely not any heavier than that. It probably is actually a little lighter, maybe about the same, a little lighter. I don't know, but it's not like a Bow or maybe even a Warrior in terms of lightness, but it's still plenty light. No one, I don't think anyone's going to be complaining that it's heavy. So part of this dual light core is making it lighter. And then also, much like just about every other pad I've been reviewing and had in my hands recently, I just feel like the core of all Goldie pads over the last few years, couple generations of pad, now have come to all be this style where it no longer really feels like any kind of soft foam in there, or there's not really a lot of torsional flex or lateral flex like pads used to have, especially like this type of hybrid, whatever you want to call it, more flexible pad. So even in this style pad, they don't do that anymore. That's with True, that's with CCM. Even now, Vaughn was probably the last holdout where their pads still kind of felt more old style. But now, even with, if you saw my VX1 review, even with that, their internal core of the pad just feels very rigid, stiff, solid. You know, there's brakes and whatever for vertical flex, but anything else with the pad is just very structured, very rigid. So this goes along with what you're seeing across the market of pretty much everyone going to that. And to be honest, I have no problem with that. Even though, if you know me, you know I kind of like a little bit of an older feeling pad, but I don't necessarily need the flex that this style of core takes away. It is for me more like the flex and the brakes and that vertical flex more than it just feeling squishy and twisting around, torsional flex type of stuff. So, you know, that just gives it it makes the pad very structurally sound, to a blocking surface that's not going to twist and maybe open up holes or whatever. You're going to get the full face of the pad facing the puck when you go down. That's why they're all going to that. Plus, it does make the pad a little lighter, I feel like, than older style foams that they used to use. So, like I said, they're just kind of keeping up with the Joneses with that. You know, they're not like the first pad to do that or anything, but that's just the way the industry is going with that style of core. I'll also call out the thigh rise is nice and thin. I like that. I like a very thin thigh rise. Is it the absolute thinnest? I'd have to line like all the pads up. I mean, it's up there. It's pretty thin. I mean, I have no complaints about how thin it is. Trying to think, maybe Bauer, a hair thinner. True, but they don't have a consistent. True doesn't have a consistent thickness. It kind of starts off thicker and then they thin it up as it goes up to the top. So it kind of depends how you want to compare it. But either way, I like how thin it is. So besides the dual light core, a couple other things I wanted to talk about that they put into this pad. They're calling it the Infinite Power Rebound, IPR. You'll see that it's on the pad on the side here, Infinite Power Rebound. So they're saying that helps, you know, kick the puck out further. That's pretty much what most companies want. I haven't seen anybody put any literature out to go out of their way to state that their pad kills rebounds, even though I've been very vocal about saying that I think there's a time and place that you do want to kill a rebound, and there's a time and place you want to kick it out, but you can have a pad that does both. But the powers that be have decided that always trying to kick it out as far as possible is the best. I don't necessarily need that, but I will report to you guys when I use pads, you know, how good the rebounds are, how far they kick out. So we'll see, but that's what they're marketing with this, the Infinite Power Rebound. And they're saying it's because they use this like springy foam now that will spring out the rebound. I will say, feeling the face of the pad, you know, it feels softer than like a Bauer pad. So, you know, we'll see how that works with the rebounds. Oh, and then, I mean, I already talked about it, but going back to the sliding material, just to say what they're actually calling it, they're calling it the Cross Glide sliding material. So that's their marketing name for it. But yeah, it's just, I already kind of talked about my feelings on it, how it looks and feels pretty promising, and I'm excited to try it out, see how it slides. So that's about it. as far as like their marketing language they use that I'm going to go over. Other than that, let's just like take a look practically at the pad. Of course, whenever these companies, excuse me, whenever these companies are putting out I hate saying this, but you guys know what I mean when I say hybrid pad, because it's not a hybrid pad, but when these companies have their line that is their hybrid flexible line, they love doing the knee rolls, even though knee rolls are completely useless and do nothing. Especially here, it really is a faux knee roll situation going on. It's just for looks. It does absolutely nothing. Why? Just don't put it. Nobody cares. Like it's just such a stupid thing. I mean, the only company actually, and I'll give them props, that went away from knee rolls altogether is Bryan's. Even on their iconic line, which is what would compete with this, they got rid of the knee rolls. So props to Bryan's. Everyone else is still putting the knee rolls because they think, like, I don't know, people are idiots, and if they don't see a knee roll, they won't know, or they won't think the pad is flexible, or which a lot of these pads really aren't that flexible to me anyway. But so yeah, so you see knee rolls, but that doesn't do anything. It's completely pointless. It's just for show. But they did go away from, on the past couple Eflex lines, they had like kind of diagonal knee rolls, kind of weird shape. I guess it kind of was just a gimmicky thing because they went away from it and went back to just this normal, completely horizontal lines of knee rolls. But just to call it out that it really does absolutely nothing. It's just for looks. It's just to signal that this is the hybrid flexible pad. Then stock, it'll come with the one break below the knee, nothing up top. So you're really not getting much flex up top. Any of this flex you're seeing is coming from the knee break. That being said, I've talked about this and pointed out in other pads. A knee break is only as good as the space between the knee landing and the calf landing. There's really not much space here, so there's not much flex. If you take the calf landing out of the equation, you see it start to flex more. But that's not how it's going to be when you play. Everything's going to line up because it's on your leg. You have your leg in it. It's going to catch, and there's just not much flex. So really, the one break isn't doing a whole lot. I guess it's providing slightly more flex than if it had no breaks. But this goes back to my point that really these pads are not that flexible anymore, even the quote-unquote flexible lines that these companies are putting out. The boot, this is their stock boot. You know, it's pretty flexible. Yeah, is it the absolute most flexible boot I've ever seen? No. But it is pretty flexible. Like, I have no problem with it. This is good for me. I like the flexibility of the boot. Thickness-wise, I could stand for it to be a little thinner, you know, but it is what it is. It's all right. But the rest of the pad, like not even just the thigh rise, but the rest of the pad, it's a fairly thin pad, which I like. Traditional outer knee roll, just like a squared off, doesn't taper or really anything. I mean, kind of at the top, the whole pad tapers, and I'll talk about that in a second, but the knee roll itself is just very traditional. All right, so let's talk about this little taper or angle at the top. You can kind of see it here, angles like that. So the idea being when your pads kind of interact with each other, it's more seamless because it has that little angle, as opposed to if it was just the same thickness all the way up and just topped off. That's kind of the same reason that True has their design on their thigh rise, and why a lot of companies have gotten a very thin thigh rise. It's all because of this, trying to limit when two pads interact, limit the interference there. Kind of see if there's anything more like on the face of the pad. I mean, I guess we can just kind of talk about the graphic. It's kind of hard to see because it's all white. You know, you can hop on a customizer on a lot of retail stores or CCM's own site. The graphics, all right. There's really no custom graphic that I think is like so great. They're mostly, I think at best they're mostly like, at worst some are pretty terrible. But yeah, I mean, you can do some things with it, but it's nothing special to me, the graphic. Going back to the boot, one thing I am a little surprised about, it's not much of a channel, but there is somewhat of a channel, as shallow as it might be. There is a tiny bit of a channel on the boot here, which I think most companies and just about every pad has gone away from that at this point, but I guess CCM is still providing one. It's not like, you know, as deep of a channel as pads from, you know, maybe 5-6 years ago were, older pads. But compared to a lot of current pads, it's at least somewhat of a defined channel there. So we'll see. It might not sit as high on your skate as some other pads out there. You know, we'll see how that feels. The toe bridge itself is pretty standard. It's just got like the hard foam in there, and it's a piece of the Gen Pro. The toe ties, again, I haven't used CCM in a while, so I don't know if this is the same toe tie they've been using for a little bit now, or if this is new on this. But so what I do like about it is it kind of follows the same idea as what Kova does, which if you've watched my other videos and followed me, you know I love Kova toe ties. That's my favorite one. I always recommend that. And the idea is the actual connection point from the pad to the skate is going to be something that doesn't give. It's a set thing. And then the part that wraps around your skate is elastic or whatever, something that has give. So it's kind of a hybrid. It's not just pure bungee, and it's not just pure skate lace or something that doesn't give. So this it's not the same design. If you see the Kova, you know it's not the same design, but the idea is the same, where it's got the skate lace here that'll attach from the pad to the skate, but then the part that wraps around your skate and attaches to each other, that has give to it with the elastic. So, you know, while do I think it's gonna beat out my Kova necessarily? No, probably not, but it's good enough that I'll probably try it. You know, a lot of times won't even try the stock toe tie system. A lot of these pads I just throw my Kovas on, but there's a pretty good chance I'll actually give this a try before throwing the Kovas on and see how I like it. All right, I think we can move around to the backside, leg channel, knee cradle, all that stuff of the pad.
All right, so I just wanted to give you guys a good view of how the knee landing is actually attached, because a lot of companies and pads have it actually integrated into the pad. And if you looked at it from like this side, you might think, oh yeah, it's integrated. But really it's just this outer flap that's it's almost like the same way a one-piece blocker is made, or, you know, has the sidewall. So like the sidewall of the knee landing, if you will, is part of this outer landing sliding surface. But the knee stack is its own thing. It's not actually integrated into the pad. So the way it's attached is it's laced in with the sure grip here, and then this outer part is attached to the landing surface, and that then is velcroed onto the knee stack. So it's not integrated like some other pads are, but it does provide for a very you know, rigid knee block here. There is a little bit of give to it, but it's you know, it's pretty solid.
So as with most pads stock, they come with a removable wing. That way you can either put it across, or it has the Velcro situation where you can put it down to the calf. I put it down to the calf, so I will be removing this. I kept it on just to show you guys. It's very easily removable. Also, another thing to call out is, and it's funny, at first I don't know if it really shows up on the camera. There's two slits here. When I first was looking at the pad, I only saw like one of the slits. I'm thinking like, oh man, it's already cut. It's got like some kind of skate cut or something. Like, what the hell happened? It's a brand new pad. But then upon further review, again, I don't know how good this comes out on the camera here. The way this is attached is it's just attached running through slits in the Gen Pro here. So this is just an option, I guess, if you want to move this knee wing, you can move it up one. So there's actually 3 placements for it, and there's 2 straps on the knee wing. So you have a little play there of how high or low you want to put it. This is on the lower setting, and then you can go up one. So that's what the little like slits you see here are actually for. But again, for me, it doesn't mean anything because I don't attach it across anyway. Moving on to the knee landing. The knee landing has this sure grip on it. Usually I don't really care to put like a sure grip or really tacky material on my knee landing. In fact, when I ordered my Bryant's Optic 4 pads, I opted to get rid of their sure grip and just have it be nylon. Here's the reason. It's not necessarily that I've had like a bad experience with it or something like that, but given the option, which this is stock, so I don't have the option, but given the option, I just rather not have to deal with it. Why? Well, think about it. With a leg pad, you want it rotating around your leg as you're going down your butterfly, getting back up. I just don't want anything that could possibly be catching and causing some kind of adverse reaction to happen because it, you know, it's tacky and it caught on my knee and like maybe the pad doesn't rotate quite right. You know, the argument for this is, oh, well, it helps keep your knee on the knee landing so it doesn't slide off. But my thing is, if you have a properly sized pad and you have it strapped properly to your leg, your knee shouldn't be coming off. Doesn't matter what material this is. That being said, look, if it's, you know, everyone has their own opinion and their own likes. If you like it, you like it. I personally would rather not have the sure grip. We'll see if it really comes into play when I use it, but that's what they offer stock, is this kind of sure grip material here. And then, so this is their knee strap. It's pretty much like any other knee strap, you know, elastic, Velcro. But going back to how I kind of talked about all these companies have their promotional jargon, whatever. Oh, it's their DRS Pro Plus strap. Okay, well, I don't care what you call it. It's elastic and Velcro. Like, it's not a big deal. You don't need to call it anything other than knee strap, but it's their DRS Pro Plus. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a knee strap. Along the same lines, they have their QMSS3 strap here at the upper calf. I think it stands for like Quick Motion Strapping System, QMSS. Again, it's a professor strap. It's a glorified professor strap, but every company has their own name for it. They don't want to just call it a professor strap. That being said, okay, it is a little different than just a standard common professor strap. So let me try to get this out for you to take a look at it. So it's different in the fact that it kind of has a double strap going on. A standard professor strap wouldn't have this bottom thing here. It would just be this top piece going across. That being said, is that going to do a whole lot different other than a professor strap? I don't think so. For instance, as an example, with my Bryant's Optic 4 leg pads, they have their inner calf strap is somewhat like this. It has a lot more you can adjust and play with. But the way I have it, it kind of looks like this, where it is a dual strap, but I have it both kind of towards the top, and where the very top one just goes across like a standard style old school professor strap. So yeah, this is just, ultimately it's the anchor strap of the pad that anchors it to your leg. The professor strap, they calling it their QMSS3. But yeah, has a sure grip here. So what do I feel about the sure grip there? I don't know. I don't have as much of an opinion as I do on the knee landing. Again, we'll see how it works. I haven't used it. I haven't used CCM in a while. So most of my other professor straps don't really have something like a sure grip on it, but yeah, we'll see how it works. And then you have your standard just outer calf strap here that just ties the everything together, keeps everything in. Then just kind of what looks like an afterthought, they have this bottom strap, but it's just very cheap looking. It's literally Velcro and elastic, whereas like these other straps at least have this nice Gen Pro tab, and well, actually a rubber tab into the Gen Pro, and then it's the strap. That's with the QMSS, and their knee strap is, well, the knee strap doesn't have the Gen Pro, but it does have the rubber tab. This cheap, shitty one here is literally just elastic and Velcro. I'm gonna take this off. I don't care for straps at the bottom of my ankle. I never felt like I need it for anything. So it's removable and it's coming off for me, the bottom strap here. Then let's take a look at the leg channel itself. They're advertising this as it's a kind of a tight fitting leg channel. Again, I haven't put it on, I haven't used it, so we'll see how it feels. In general, I prefer something a little more spacious, loose, but a lot of times, even if they call it tight fitting or loose fitting, like it really will depend on how you strap it. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll be able to find a strapping system to make this feel decent on my leg. Usually the leg channel being, you know, quote unquote tight or loose hasn't in the past hasn't had a big effect for me with when I think of pads when I'm using them. But yeah, this is the channel. For the most part, it's nylon, it's Gen Pro, it's a lot of the same stuff that you see on the rest of the pad, and then around the actual calf area and shin, it's this mesh material. They'll probably tell you the mesh is, you know, airs it out better, it's cooler maybe. I don't ever think, like I've used a bunch of different pads, they use different things in the knee leg channel. Look, not everyone uses the same stuff, but in general, you know, people have a base layer. They have knee pads. So I don't use socks, but some people then even put socks over that. So you're talking about 2-3 layers between your skin on your leg and the leg pad. So I don't think anything they use in here really matters that much because you have so much degrees of separation between your leg and the pad with other materials you have that you're wearing. So whatever, okay, it's mesh. I mean, I've used ones that are just nylon, it's fine. I've used ones that are mesh, it's fine. I use just other material, I don't even know what the hell they were. I don't think it ever made a difference to me. But just to call out, that's what they have. But then on the bottom of the mesh, at the lower ends, they kind of have this other material, like it feels like vinyl to me. And I'm assuming that's there just because that's a more high wear area, so they added that there. And then stock will not come with a bootstrap, but they give you the tabs for a possible one. These are pretty standard tabs that a lot of different companies, models, brands, whatever use. So I feel like I probably could use, like, I still have some Bauer ones. I have Brian's ones. I think I would, if need be, I could put one of those on here. Now, yes, I do in general prefer a bootstrap, but when I've tried just stock pads before that don't come with it, I was able to use it. And I would say 90-95% of the time, the bootstrap doesn't even come into play. I'll fully admit that. I only wear it for like that 5 to 10% of the time that it does. And it's just for very extreme cases where you're really extending a leg. It's some scramble play. You're getting all in weird positions. And sometimes in those cases, the bootstrap can help keep the pad in position on your leg. Otherwise, it can tend to really ride up or something if you don't have the bootstrap. But yeah, for the most part, I really don't need it. But when I have the option to, I use it. I put it on just in case, and I use it pretty loose so that it's only there in the extreme situations. But stock, this does not come with the bootstrap. Like I said, we'll see. I'll try it definitely at first without the bootstrap, and I probably won't ever feel the need to put it on, but the option is there if need be. There is a calf pillow, small as it might be. I've seen this before. Off the top of my head, I don't remember which pad it was I reviewed, but I've reviewed at least one other pad, not more, that have this, like have a tiny little pillow like this. I don't think, I mean, honestly, in general, I haven't felt calf pillows do a whole lot, but especially when it's this small, you know, I think they just kind of have it there just to make people feel better. Like, hey, we're giving you the calf pillow like a lot of other brands have. I don't think it makes a big deal. You know, we'll see. Oh, going back some, because what made me think of it is the how at the bottom of the pad they have this material for the high wear areas. And also on the outer part where it's nylon, they put Gen Pro here. But also on the top corner where pads tend to rub together, I feel like it's the same material. That's their sliding material, which, what is it again now? Let me bring it up. Their cross glide sliding material. They kind of bring it up and around the corner here just because that is a high wear area. Which I guess let's lead that into quality of the pad. obviously I can't speak at all to durability or anything, haven't even used it yet. Just looking at the quality, because this is a overseas made pad, even though it's their top of the line at the retail level. You know, they're by no means the only ones that do that. Bauer, even their pro stuff comes from overseas. Warrior, the I mean, True in their last iteration with the 9X3, that was their top retail pad, and that was made overseas. So, you know, it's kind of just a reality situation. Really, the only brands that 100% have their top level made in the North America are Bryan's and Vaughn. As far as the big companies, you know, there's some smaller companies, Simmons, whatnot. But as far as like the big brands, yeah, it's Vaughn and Bryan's that you're gonna get, that you can get U.S. or Canada made. But yeah, so just like kind of looking at the quality of the pad, I will say it kind of looks slightly off from like a Vaughn, a Bryan's, a North American made True pad. It's not even something necessarily that's like I can really point out like, yeah, this is 100%, but it's just, I don't know, something about it looks like it's not quite to there. Like, I don't know, they're Gen Pro. I mean, maybe it's just my own bias in my head, but like to me their Gen Pro seems a little cheaper looking. I don't know why. I've never had that thought with other Gen Pro before, but something about it just seems a little cheaper looking. Also, their some of the thread they use just, again, doesn't seem quite up to the same snuff as some of the North American made stuff. In here, there's like a thread that's kind of like not taut, it's a little loose. It doesn't look like it's like it's broken or something. It just looks like maybe they didn't pull it completely tight. I don't know. So, and that's one of the reasons why I have not really covered much CCM in the past, and I've been hesitant to use them, is that, you know, I've had heard things with durability issues, quality control issues with CCM. But hey, we'll see what happens when I use it, if it shows up at all or it ends up being a non-factor. But if I have to say, just on first look of the pad, yeah, there's certain things about it that it feels like it is made a little cheaper than some other pads, North American pads. But I think that's pretty much it to talk about as far as just the specs and the build of the pad. So, oh, and then just to tell you the size I got, 33+1. I'm pretty much a 33 across the board in various brands and models. The plus can vary, like with Vaughn, I use a +2 because their thigh rise runs a little smaller than others. But in most other things, I do a +1, like Bauer's. The last Bauer's I had, the Hyperlight 2s, were 34+1s. That's about the only one that's the only pad that I'm in a 34 other than a 33, just because for whatever reason, I feel like I talk about it when I have my videos on it, but I feel like it has to do with the boot on the Hyperlight 2 that makes it fit a little smaller. But that's the only brand or models specifically, because the Shadow line I would use a 33 in. But the Hyperlight, now the Flylight, but I haven't used the Flylight yet, and I probably don't plan to anyway. That one is a 34. Everything else pretty much 33. Even now with Vaughn, with the way they've kind of changed the construction of their pad, used to be a 34 in that, 33 in that. So this, sizing wise, this goes along with what I am in just about any other pad. So if you're coming from something else and you're maybe wondering, and you just, obviously it's always best to try it on, but if you can't, I would say go with whatever you are size wise in probably what you're coming from, you know, with a few exceptions. So yeah, 33+1 is what this is. But yeah, I think that's just about it for this spec check video. And I'll see you in the next one.